Welcome back to the Authentic Human Podcast, where we explore consciousness, creation, existence, and evolution from inside conversations with universal beings that created it. This is part 100 of the story of creation. Super excited. Started this project a year ago, and we're still here. And the really exciting news is we're going to still keep going because we've only scratched the surface. And now we're going into bigger and more exciting parts. But it's really important to understand that the only reason that we can go into the bigger and more exciting parts is because we did the foundation. As with any part of personal transformation, personal development, self-awareness, it's really about understanding in layers. Humans were created and designed to learn in layers. And that was actually used against us. And that's part of how we were controlled and manipulated, and how the system to control us, how it thrives, because it is literally designed to create layers and layers and layers of misbeliefs. And so the whole story of creation is designed that every single episode, every single part of the story is designed to, the way they're showing me, it's to highlight one belief in you, at least one belief in you that needs to change. It needs to either be removed because it is completely not in alignment with who you are in universal existence, or it just needs to shift so that you can come into a state of consciousness rather than a state of illusion. So, and the other part that's really cool is also understanding that every time you learn something, it's going to impact different areas of your life. That's what truth does. So the information that we're getting, this is universal truth, okay? This is not a human's opinion. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with universal existence, okay? So when we're in our universal state of being, so in between lives, we have full conscious awareness of existence, okay? So all of these universal beings, there is no judgment, but there's also no perspective. They don't hold their perspective on what happened, okay? Universal beings, and this is you also as a soul, okay? You explore your potential by trying new things, by participating in different experiences. But your understanding of what you experienced always comes through the universal perspective. The human experience of this is that we currently have our personal human perspective of what just happened. This is where and why we can't get over the emotional trauma. And we sit and we go over and over and over again in a state of, it's a cycle, right? And it's a state of stagnation. It's very limited. And depending on the energy, right? Sometimes it can be frenetic energy because it's actually causing you harm, or it's actually causing others harm. And so the goal is to bring your frequency and vibration, so the energy of you as a soul, the goal is to bring your frequency and vibration back into an aligned state with universal existence. Okay, that's really what the story of creation is about. And it's understanding that we're working with your energy more than your mind. Okay, so yes, the information is here, but it's what the information does to your energy that counts and that matters, because that's what's changing you. That's what's shifting your not only perspective of existence, it's perspective of who you are and what you're capable of, but also how the universe works, because we need to understand all of these pieces in order to restore who we are as a human race and create the future of human existence. The future of human existence, okay, and the reason that this massive shift is occurring is intended by the Creator to restore conscious awareness and restore the original intention of existence, which is free will, and every soul be participating in their own exploration, in their own existence. It's a big mountain to climb at this point, but also it's understanding that it's actually pretty simple. And we can see that the world is crumbling around us. It has to, right? It has to. And we all know that. And so if you're sitting there worrying about what you need to do to protect yourself from the crumble, then this is where we're going to shift that. I want you to shift that today, okay? Because this isn't about holding a space to need to protect yourself and keep yourself safe. Why? Because those are both based on fear. It's recognizing that this shift in existence, right? This resurrection of human existence. So what does that even mean? That means that humans are coming back into the innate knowledge and wisdom of our ancient and original selves. And if you're still believing that ancient humans are archaic, then this is not the experience for you. This is for people who recognize and understand that we've been lied to, and that ancient humans, all humans, are a race of the most infinite intelligence in existence. And we have access to universal intelligence. And our mission here is to consistently expand the universal experience, which means we're consistently feeding consciousness. Okay? So today, what they really want to start to talk about is we have some of the first stream angelics here, and they want to, so first stream angelics created matter fundamentally. Now, we also have a number of angelics here who want to begin to explain how matter became experience. Okay? Because this is creation. They want to share with you the actual creation process that they used to ultimately achieve a position of universal existence where then humans were deemed a possibility. Okay? So ultimately, we started with matter, and then the matter became experience. And that was the second stream of angelic. But in order for it to become, for experience to be created, the second stream of angelics had to be created. So the first stream were created to create matter. And the creator is also here. And so what they're sharing and what they're showing is they basically created a playground, like a universal playground. So what does that mean? They created, so matter is not, I need you to just sort of bear with me here, because this may stretch your brain a little bit more. Matter is not physical representation. Okay? This is going to be a little bit challenging because it's understanding that matter is a co-creation in itself of different aspects of existence. And it's a collection of different materials, but ultimately it's a collection of different vibrations. And those vibrations are held together so they maintain their intention, okay, and the intention for their existence. And this is really important. So, so they maintain their intention for existence by a very specific degree of magnetism, okay? And so what they're showing me is this is the difference between different materials, like the hardness and the strength of a diamond versus, the strength of limestone or sulfur, okay? It's understanding that their strength is based on the level of magnetism that's energetically encoded into the structure. Okay. And again, structure is not physical representation, it's energetic based. And so what happens is the particles come together. So the particles of physical matter come together as and it's like an afterthought. Okay. It's like an understanding that they're the future existence of the intention of matter. That's it. Okay. So because they're the future intention, right? That's why they're trying to explain this. So I'm learning for the first time, which is also why it's a little bit slow and a little bit discombobulated, if you will, as I'm speaking. So it's really interesting because the way they're showing me is in order for like an atom, a physical atom to come together, the energy and the frequency of the energy needs to be programmed. So that's what the first stream angelics were doing. That's what they were tasked with, is literally creating different frequencies and vibrations and then because of that, different substances were created. So they actually created all the gases, all of the minerals, all of those things as a result of their curiosity. So, for example, they're saying, if they, oh gosh, they're like, all these different names are running through my head, and it's really funny because I have very little scientific background. And so they're just saying, like, yeah. So salt, for example, is so it's really cool because you can see, okay, I see what they're showing me. So different minerals, different structures are also based in different environments. So salt, for example, is a universal energy. It's a universal aspect of existence, but it's also biological. And what biological means is it is native to the plants, very specific. It's native to the plants on Earth. And salt was created to nurture it's like the biosphere in the root system. Bear with me. In the root system of plants, they're saying plants and animals, so that's interesting. It's designed to ensure hydration, but adequate hydration, because again, okay, so it's really important to understand that everything is created to coexist. So there is no aspect of existence that is an individual representation of existence. This is also really important. So salt was created to ensure plants and mammals could exist based on the extremes, like the extremes of what was possible in the potential for Earth to experience. Because, so Earth herself would have a say. So it's very fascinating because Earth wasn't like the planet, right? Wasn't created in a day. It was, billions and trillions of years, her evolution. So she would be, this is like not quite hurting my brain, but it's challenging because we're talking about so many aspects of the physical representation of the existence that we see and feel and hear. But it's also understanding that the physical representation is more a result of how we've been taught to see it. And this is what we have to change now. This is what's going to start to change going forward, because we're seeing everything as black and white, and we need to see it in Technicolor. And so ultimately, the aspects of minerals and gases and different aspects of creation are based on the frequency and vibration of the intention of that experience. So it's understanding that every intention, every aspect of existence has an intention, but the intentions are all intertwined. So everything is woven together, but it's woven in a way that recognizes your like salt's individual potential, but also understanding how salt needs to be fed and how salt is going to feed others, because that's what existence is based on. Existence is consistently based on evolution, and evolution requires two things. It requires participation on both sides. So receiving participation from others and then participating in the experience of others. But also, and this is where that basis is automatic. Okay? That basis is automatic. And the challenge with human existence currently is that humans see only what they want to see, but it's based on what we've been taught to see. And that's why you're only seeing those parts. But it's also why your instincts question aspects of existence outside of what you've been taught. And it's harder to find that information. So this is really challenging me today. This is fascinating. And it's challenging only because it's so physical. So I'm so used to being deep in the energy, and what they're doing is they're literally showing me how energy becomes physical matter. And so I'm like sweating. I'm like, this is a lot of work in the sense of it's something I've never done before. And so that's where it seems a little bit disjointed. So ultimately, we are going into creation. And in order to understand physical creation, so this is where it blows manifestation out of the water, right? Like manifestation is, oh, I'd love to see what that experience is, but only from your perspective, right? We're going into the universal perspective of creation, which is fundamentally different. And and that's the challenge, is it has, 50 million aspects on one little intention of creating salt. And so that's where I'm feeling that pressure is, how can I explain it all? So I'm just letting them drive it. I don't need to drive any of this, but that's where I'm struggling a little bit. So it's just taking a deep breath and surrendering. So there we go. Thank you for letting me just talk that through right here with you. And that's fine. Okay. So they're showing me, it's so beautiful. So in the creation of salt, it was understood that all water would need an aspect of salt, because the vibration and frequency of salt purifies the water. It keeps the water pure. So even, fresh water actually has, it has trace amounts of salt, like the mineral salt, in order to sustain its liveliness, its presence. And so like they're showing me that salt, like where the water, okay, so I've done a lot of experience with understanding water and the existence of water and where she came from and how she exists. And what they're showing me is when water is derived from rock. Okay, just go with that. Again, we're just going to challenge as many beliefs of yours as we can today. It's good. And so when water was derived from rock, it needed to come from a rock, right, that was rich in minerals and particularly had salt on the surface. Because what happens is when the water came out of the rock, okay, we'll go into water another time, but when water came out of the rock, it had to immediately run across and over a patch of salt. Now, I know that this sounds really basic and really simple, but ultimately, this is the foundation of existence. Everything is really basic and really simple. And so, but that's the way it connects with each other. That's how everything fits. And it ensures that we thrive. It ensures that every aspect of existence thrives. So the salt was a part of the plan from the beginning when it came to water. And yeah, and then they're saying, and we can get into the creation of salt, but ultimately it's understanding that salt was created to purify water. Now, when you pull back for a minute, and that's why they started with salt. Okay, that makes a lot of sense now. I can see. So when you pull back for a minute and you look at the fact that we live on a planet that is based on salt, and we live in we live on a planet that is based on water, and we live in a body that is based on water, right? Both are anywhere 70 to 90% water base. And so the reason that they wanted to start with salt is to help you understand. So currently we're in a state where the salt has been poisoned, right? It's been poisoned not because someone intentionally poisoned it, but because someone intentionally changed the biosphere. And what I mean by that is when you change how existence was created, because existence was created in a fine balance, right? Where every aspect of existence enhances and naturally serves each other. So what does that mean? That means that salt was designed to ensure for plants, it was designed for water. And so those two working together ensure purification of water so that the water is always clean and the water is always at a vibration and frequency that ultimately has the potential to heal the human body. And this is really important. And this is really interesting, actually, because we're now coming back to that place where we start to recognize that because we have chosen to. So, poison is the correct term, but it's understanding that most of us are doing it without, it's not even without awareness. We have awareness that we're doing it, but it's become okay to do it, right? So when we participate in traveling in vehicles, whether you're in a car, you're in a plane, you're in a bus, any vehicle that emits emissions. But it's also understanding that any vehicle that has changed the biosphere of existence. So that also includes electric vehicles, right? Because they're taking the nutrients out of the ground in order to create batteries. So neither of these two options are universally balanced, okay? And so the intention today is not to shame you for driving a vehicle and for traveling. The intention is to start to begin to create awareness of what has been created using matter currently. Because when you understand how matter has the potential to be used to co-create experience, because that's how all of this came to be, then you have the potential to change what's currently being experienced. Okay? And so because we are now working towards creating the future of human existence, you need to know what's in your toolbox. You need to know how you can do that, right? And how you're meant to be able to do that. And so this is where we're going to get into a lot more of the specifics about existence, but what the creator wants to explain to you and the angelic. So very specific is they created the frequency and vibration for every aspect of existence, but they also they understood that because they had all of these creations, the creations needed the opportunity to grow and explore their own potential, right? So salt has its own potential. Every mineral in existence has its own potential, okay? And so in order to do that, they needed to create experts in creation and experience. So that's how the second stream of angelics came to be. Let's put it that way. And so what happened is the first stream and the second stream collaborated to an extent, because the second stream were created to take matter and create it into experiences. Okay. And in doing so, they became aware of the fact that potential isn't based on structure, right? So it's not based on frequency and vibration. Potential is based on the intention of the frequency and vibration. This is very important. So when you want to do something, okay, that's how we're going to break it down super, super simple. When you want to do something and you set your intention to do it, right? Intention becomes energy, becomes experience. So if you set your intention to do something and then you feed that energy and you continuously feed it because you're doing it, you're participating, and you're doing it in every single way you possibly can, right? That is your experience because you're feeding it. If you set an intention and you don't follow through with the energy, you don't feed it, you just say, this is what I want, and then you go feed a whole bunch of other things, that will never come to fulfillment. And so this is how every aspect of existence was created, is not only, okay, this is where it gets really bigger but finite and much more, it's clearer, is in order for them to create salt, we're coming back because it's one example, very simple. They had to create the frequency and vibration, and then they fed it. So now they're exploring what's possible by feeding it with their energy, right? So then they understood that this has the potential, to bring moisture into plants, into animals, and to hold the moisture for the time necessary, okay, for the body to, and the body could be a plant or an animal, it doesn't matter, but for the body to rejuvenate itself. So what does that mean? It means that it has to go through a process of replacing, not necessarily, okay, so it's not replacing, it's more filtering and cleansing the water in any body, right? So whether it's the earth, whether it's, oh, that's why there was floods. Huh, that's very cool. Sorry. Whether it's the earth, it's humanity, it's very cool how all this happens and it just comes through and you're like, oh yeah, that just popped in. Okay. So the reason they're sharing this with you is helping you understand that when you want to create something, it's that finite. Okay. But we're not designed to sit and create all these details before we start feeding the energy into it, right? Before we start using it, before we start trying it. No, that's not how it works. Creation works by setting an intention and then having experiments. You try this and you try that and you try this, right? I mean, I can tell you just from the story of creation and telling the story, I first started doing it and it wasn't great because there wasn't people. I couldn't work with people. I couldn't see faces. And I was like, okay, we got to do this in front of a live audience because it's totally different. I need humans so that I can see your faces and know what I'm saying makes sense. Why? Because then I can go deeper. If I don't have any feedback from a human perspective, then it's useless for me to go into the universal perspective. That's me feeding my intention, feeding it with energy. Does that make sense? So the intention is, I'm going to do this, but you have to try it. You have to participate, right? And this is where we've been taught as humans that if you're going to do something, you sit down and you plan it. You have a strategy, and this is how you're going to approach it. And here's the thing is when challenges come up, when you do it from a strategy, when you approach your life from a strategy, and then challenges come up, you get frustrated because you're like, oh, I just need to get to the end. I just need to get to the end. And that is not what the goal is about. Intention becomes energy, becomes experience, means you're creating intention because you want to have an experience. And your job is to create the opportunity for that experience to unfold. It's being in the experience that matters. So you can't use a strategy, right? And that's the thing is most people are looking because, this is where religion and science and everything is trying to simplify creation, but it doesn't work that way. And they won't find answers that are going to be like, this is exactly how this works and it never varies. That's not how existence works. Existence is based on co-creation, which ultimately means that every aspect of creation supports and receives from every other aspect of creation. So, for example, you are supporting and receiving from salt. Period. Every single aspect of your being, your natural state of being. Now, humans at the current state of evolution, we don't participate in, they're showing me like 2 to 3, some participate in 5 to 7, 8, 9% max in our natural state of being. And those are for people who live like completely off the grid, completely in isolation. And again, isolation is understanding that they're in connection with the entire universe. So they're isolated from human existence and the tampering and the impact, right? So and they want to be really clear, right? This is not about us dropping everything we're doing and going back to living in nature. That's not what this is about. But they want you to understand that the current society is designed strategically to ensure your continual participation. Okay? Why? Because it wasn't designed as a co-creation. It needs your constant energy to feed it. So their intention for their creation was that you feed it with your energy, and then they'll get the experience they want. That's it. That's why they created the education system, the religion system, medical system, financial system eventually out of it, right? And then they've got the Hollywood and the whole concept of awards and everything, okay? And the government institution ensures that all of these they maintain their structure, which is what's crumbling currently. But it's not going to crumble how most people have been taught. It's not about the system crumbling and everyone instantly going back to being poor and living in rags. And, that's not the intention. Because again, originally, we didn't need clothes. Why? Because we understood how to live in existence with physical experiences, no matter whether it was weather, all of these things. It's completely not even relevant, okay? What we're doing is we're restoring humanity's potential to create. Well, how can you do that? You have to learn how to create. right? Creation is not building something or making something in pure physical representation or manifestation. It's understanding that creation is about understanding your intention behind your creation. And the goal right now is to bring the intention of creation, to bring that frequency and vibration back up in alignment with universal existence. Because right now, when you try to create something and you use a strategy, okay, your vibration is at the lowest frequency it can possibly be before it's non-existent. And so, because you've gone through those phases where you're so inspired and you're like, this is going to be amazing. And then you start to plot out your strategy. And your strategy takes your excitement and your inspiration and it brings it down and it brings it down and it brings it down to the point where you get to in your strategy and you're like, this is so overwhelming. This is going to be so hard. And this is just never going to happen. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough people. I don't have enough land. I don't have enough, whatever it is that you need, materials. And so you can see exactly why they taught us to use strategy, because then you can't create anything. And you're going to stay inside the creation that they want you to follow, and you're going to continuously feed their energy. How do you do that? Just by simply believing you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough, because none of those things actually exist universally. But if you're focused on them, then that's exactly the experience you're going to have. This is bigger, so much bigger than you. What I'm talking about and who I'm talking to and who we're talking to as a collective from all of the universal beings right now coming through, what they're saying is we're talking to the part of you that knows, understands, and recognizes that you're an integral part of universal existence, and your potential to create is hidden beneath the lies that you've been told. And so what we're doing is we're not peeling the layers of lies away anymore, because we don't have time for that, right? We're literally cracking it open, opening it up and saying, listen, you're in the middle, pull yourself out and let's go. Okay. They don't want to play anymore. They don't want to, this experience has gone on for well over 50,000 years. We don't need to have the experience of feeling like we're no more suffering, no more trauma, but ultimately like we can't connect with our own selves while we're in human physical form, because that's really what's been happening. And that's why you've only got a very small percentage of humans who are living in connection. And again, they're not even in full connection, because we're still in this aspect of society. Doesn't matter how far away you get from it, we're just not all the way back. Every single human on the face of the earth is being touched by the current human condition. Even those tribes that live so remotely, they very rarely see other humans. They're still being impacted by them. And it's been going on for a very long time, tens of thousands of years. No one is untouched. So you're not looking for another human to emulate. You're looking to emulate the frequency and vibration of your own soul. You're not looking outside of yourself to come back to, oh, I want to do what that person's doing, or I want to do what this person's doing, or I think that maybe this would work. The only thing that you're working towards is really and truly extracting the frequency and vibration of your soul as a universal being. The intention is for you to bring that back into full awareness, full consciousness on a physical level, physical representation. How do you do that? By allowing it to come out. What do I mean by that? It's the same thing with salt, right? It's that same, it's every creation in existence knows that It is feeding existence and creation while also receiving from existence and creation. That's who you are as a soul. That means that you need to come back to that place where you hold yourself in the highest regard of universal existence. Universal existence isn't about getting awards. It isn't about getting recognition. It's personal recognition. It's personal awareness. It's the satisfaction of knowing that you're participating in existence. This is fulfillment. This is fulfillment. And that's where we have to come back to. And you need to understand the basics of existence in order to propel yourself forward. Okay? So we're going to be working through a lot of them. Some of them are going to be more challenging than others, like today. But at the end of the day, the goal is to restore your intelligence. So your energetic frequency and vibration, that's your intelligence. It's not the stuff you know in your head. It's to restore your intelligence to the highest frequency and vibration of your soul and existence itself. That's the intention. So please share this with anyone that you believe has that frequency and has that intention for themselves and is literally working towards building that frequency and vibration in their own space, in their own life experience. I'd love to hear how you're enjoying the story of creation and how you feel about this second sort of part of the story. And as we're going deeper and we're going deeper into more of the physical representation, away and sort of building on, not away from, but building on the energetic foundation that we've already created. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.